For the life of me, I just can't figure out how you sang that. How did you do that?
I did. You saw my lips move.
Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, The Late Show from the Isle of Man. And who is it but, well, Howard Parkin is here with the Manx sky at night. You're looking in fine form and fettle.
Feeling great, thanks, Andy.
So what's happening? Oh, good evening. Oh, we're on Manx Radio Vision as well. Hello, hello. What's happening in the March sky, Howard?
Lots of things going on in the March sky. It's a very exciting month for us. First and foremost, of course, I'm sure lots of people have missed the moon. You might see it in the sky, but we haven't had a full moon in February. So fear not. 2nd of March, we will have a full moon.
Well, last time we spoke, it was 5 moons in one, wasn't it? It was
No.
blue, red,
it was
pink,
blue,
green.
red, pink, yellow, and everything. That was the end of January.
All right.
Well, what happened? Because you had all that.
Oh, I remember
yes,
you saying.
I'm glad to know that it goes
Yes.
in and it stays in anyway.
Well,
Now, what happened, of course, is the moon, because it happens every 19 years, because we've had a full moon at the beginning of January, at the end of January, we then have exactly the same thing happens in March. We have a full moon this year on the 2nd of March, and the next full moon is the 31st of March. So we've got another blue moon in March.
Right, so the full the 2nd of March is when week tomorrow, Friday.
Yeah, week tomorrow, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But
So-
before then, before we get out of February, we have got an exciting event taking place tomorrow night.
Yes.
Every now and then, the moon passes across the sky. It goes around the Earth in 28 days, and obviously it's orbiting, and it's seen against a background of stars.
Right.
The background of stars it's seen against are the signs of the zodiac. The zodiac is that place, the 12 constellations that the moon, the sun, and the planets pass through. Tomorrow night at 5:30, the moon is going to occult the star Aldebaran. Now, normally, this happens quite often. It's not a rare thing to happen. It is a rare thing for it to occult a bright star, and Aldebaran is one of the brightest stars it ever passes in front of. And it's actually going to do it again in March, at the end of March. But tomorrow night at about 5:30, if you go outside, look at the moon, literally about 30 minutes past 5, literally that close to 5:30. You're probably going to need binoculars, because what's going to happen is the bright light of the moon, which is about a quarter now, you won't see it that clearly, the star, which is normally very, very bright indeed. But all of a sudden, you'll see the star will just wink out. It'll just go out, because the dark limb of the moon, the bit that's not illuminated,
Yes.
will cover it first. And then you wait about, I can't remember how long it is now, it's about 15, 20 minutes. You'll then see the star come out the lit side of the moon as well. And it's not of any major interest, but it's great to see. And this is one of the best ones for some time. It's happening in a realistic time that we can see it.
Tomorrow,
So,
and as long as
5:30 tomorrow night.
as long as it's clear, of course.
All you need to do, as long as it's clear, of course. If you can't find Aldebaran, well, it's that one next to the moon. But if you want to know where Aldebaran is, just find, I'm sure by now, hopefully most of the listeners know, with the constellation Orion, I've spoken about it often enough, follow the slope of Orion's belt up and you will come to a bright star, which will be actually where the moon is tomorrow night. And have a look at that, and you'll see the star literally wink out as the dark side of the moon, the dark face, which isn't illuminated, passes over it.
Okay, what's happening now? Winter constellations?
The winter constellations are still magnificent. This is the time of year when we really see the stars of winter in the early evening at their absolute best. You've got the constellation Orion, which I've just mentioned already, absolutely unmistakable. Probably the Plough, which of course isn't a constellation, it's an asterism, but the Plough and Orion are probably the two things that most non-astronomers can recognise. And believe me, if you can find Orion, you can find so much more, because I've just mentioned, follow the belt up to Aldebaran, down to the bright star Sirius, the dog star, and we can do all this sort of stuff. But what is fascinating for me is, as we get through March and we start to head towards April, we go through the equinox in March, the vernal equinox in March, the 21st, you'll find that Orion, all of a sudden in the early evening, is starting to fall over. He's had too much to drink, but he basically starts to fall over towards the west. And when that happens, spring is in the air, literally. That's how I always acknowledge when spring is coming, because you see the bright constellation Leo coming up in the eastern horizon, but then you've got Orion, who has been due south for a little while, and then is slowly going to set in the west. And then spring is on the air, and we've got TT, and we've got all the other things going on, and it's a great time of the year to do stargazing.
Okay, just let's scroll back a minute. Are you telling me my childhood was completely misspent? The Plough is not a constellation?
Absolutely correct, 100%. The Plough is not a constellation. It is an asterism. It is a group of stars.
I was lied to.
Sorry about that, Andy. No, technically speaking,
An asterism.
An asterism is a name given to a group of stars that are not necessarily a constellation, but are linked together by some other fictitious idea. The Plough is part of the constellation of Ursa Major. All of the stars of the Plough are in Ursa Major, but we also have other asterisms such as the square of Pegasus, the summer triangle, the winter hexagon. All these things are just shapes in the sky we look at. There's another famous one, the reversed question mark of the head of Leo. These are more common things that we know and love in modern times, whereas the old ancient ideas of constellations are clearly defined by the International Astronomical Union.
Okay, so from stars to planets, what's knocking around?
Well, they're all around at the moment, and
right.
we've got a fantastic opportunity in March to see the planet Mercury. Mercury is probably the most elusive planet you're ever going to see. It is visible with the naked eye. It was discovered by nobody. It's been known since antiquity. But Mercury is always very close to the sun, very difficult to spot. You only ever spot it in a light sky. That's why it's difficult to spot. Well, I don't know if anyone's seen it yet. I've been looking and haven't seen it. But Venus, the planet Venus, has now re-emerged in the evening sky after being between the Earth and the sun in early January, and is now re-emerged into the evening sky, and it is visible in the western horizon.
Right.
As Venus rises higher and higher, Mercury is going to join it. And on the 3rd of March, just to the right of the bright star Venus, which will be unmistakable. Once you've spotted it, you won't miss it. Once you spot Venus very bright in the western sky after the sun's got down, about 6:30 in the evening, look for Venus and then look to the right of it, and you'll see a very faint star, a very faint looking star. That's not a star, of course. This is the planet Mercury. I would suggest you use binoculars to see this. Don't, whatever you do, look anywhere towards the horizon when the sun is still up. But as soon as the sun's gone down, the sky's starting to go that lovely bluey colour. This is assuming we get some clear skies. And it's the forecast in the next week or so is actually going to be very cold. That normally means clear skies. So hopefully we're going to get a good view, western horizon, bright star, Venus, a planet, of course. We call it a star, but it's not. It's a planet. And Mercury will be just literally very close to the right of it. Mercury is then going to rise a lot faster than Venus will, and on about the 11th of March it'll almost be directly over it, but some distance away now, about a couple of fingertips width away, and then it will slowly start to drop back down again as it passes between the orbits of the Earth and the Sun. And so the best chance this year, in fact for a number of years, to find Venus and Mercury together in the sky is at the beginning of March. Mercury is actually at its furthest point away from the sun, and what we call elongation. If you draw a line and measure the degrees that the Mercury is away from the sun, it's about 18 degrees away from the sun on the 15th of March. That's the best time to see it, but using Venus as a pointer is a great chance to see it. And hopefully people who've never seen Mercury, I tell my night school class all the time, how many people have seen Mercury? I'll be lucky if one or two have seen it out of a class of about 15, 20, whatever it is. Well, here's your chance to see it, and we've got good forecast in weather, cold but clear, western horizon, bright star, to the right, the planet Mercury.
Oh, well, we know why that was played. What a song and what a choice to play it, and what an image that was.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. I mean, what a marvellous... I think everyone expected that. We were talking about the Falcon Heavy launch a few weeks ago, and it really was expected not to be successful or to be partially successful. But it was absolutely perfect, apart from one slight fault, which we'll talk about later. But, he got a lot of criticism, did Elon Musk, for launching his car into space. But, when you launch a rocket for the very first time, nobody who's going to spend $100 million on a satellite is going to put it in a rocket for its first ever maiden launch. They want to make sure it works.
Yeah.
So he had to put something in the payload bay. In the past, when NASA or other organizations have launched a space rocket for the very first time, they usually literally put lumps of concrete in it. They just literally use the weight of something that matches the weight of the satellites it would normally be expected to launch. So, of course, Elon Musk was thinking to himself, I've got to put something in the payload bay. Why not put my Tesla in?
Stick a Tesla in,
Put a Tesla in. And the PR he's had out of it, Starman
that
there.
Must be, you know full well at the end of the year when they do all those news reviews, that shot's going to be in there.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's not a spaceman in a Tesla driving through space.
Yeah.
Off you go, and that was. And of course, as you say, given his past record, everything kept blowing up.
Yeah.
On the launch pad, or it kept taking off about 10 feet, and that was that. But and of course, the rockets came back down perfectly as well.
Absolutely. Again, people think that was choreographed. It wasn't. You've got two side rockets on the side of the main rocket coming off at the exact same time. They're going to come back down to Earth at the same time. Gravity will bring them back. The only thing thing that failed was the third stage, the middle core of the rocket.
Yes, that disappeared.
That didn't come back.
Yes.
What happened is there's 2 rockets meant to ignite. They leave fuel on board, just enough to fire them, to slow it down. There wasn't enough fuel left. They didn't quite get the calculation right. But of course, this rocket, 4th most powerful rocket ever built.
Yeah, it was almost Saturn V type,
No,
wasn't it?
no, not a patch on the Saturn. It's about half the
But
capacity
it was more
of the
than
Saturn.
everything else.
Oh,
that's been
height-wise,
run.
it beats everything else.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
only other 3 rockets bigger are the Energia by Russia, which have stopped being done, the N1, which never flew, and the Saturn V. You know, the Saturn V is the only rocket ever built that had a 100% success rate.
Is that so?
They only ever launched it 14 times.
Oh, the Apollos.
Yeah, for the Apollos,
the
and then
Apollos.
again for Skylab, and of course they had
Yeah.
the test launches to start with.
Yeah.
But every other vehicle obviously launched more
Well,
time.
well done, Elon Musk, as well.
Absolutely, fantastic achievement, and we look forward with great anticipation for the first commercial launch later this year of the Falcon Heavy again. And of course, there's a very real possibility, and I think it's scheduled for November at the moment, but
Is
both SpaceX and Boeing are going to be launching Americans from American soil again to the ISS. That is scheduled to happen. Officially, SpaceX launch date is August. Boeing's launch date is November, but I would not be surprised if they're both pushed back to 2019. But hey, it's exciting times, and this is a year of commercial exploitation of space.
Yeah, well, I mean, it used to be said there are no billboards in space. Well, there are now.
And there's a lovely that thing.
It's a Tesla.
It's a Tesla. But the thing I loved about that, did you see him when he's sitting behind the wheel, Starman there on the sat nav in the front? Don't panic.
Yeah.
But that's gone all the way out to Mars and beyond, not yet, but it's going to head out beyond the orbit of Mars, because the whole thing about the SpaceX Heavy was it to show that they could lift a payload that could get to Mars, and they proved that, the Tesla, and I'm sure we're going to get some wonderful pictures in about 9 months' time, or that's how long roughly it'll take to get there, I'm guessing. You're going to get some wonderful pictures of Mars in the background, and Starman sitting there driving his Tesla all the way to Mars.
Right. What about the Aurora at the moment? Is it visible?
There have been some great reports of the Aurora being forecast to be visible, but I've not heard of anyone who's seen it in any decent size or shape at all. But this is the best time of the year to see the Aurora. I mentioned before about the equinox, the spring equinox. It's actually on the 20th of March this year, not the 21st, because of the way the calendar falls. And the best times, we always say, to see the Aurora centre on the times of the equinoxes. So end of March, end of September, that's the best time to see the Aurora. And indeed, when I've seen the Aurora myself a few times, it's always tended to be around March, April time.
Right.
So that's the best time to look for it. There is a website called the Aurora Watch UK website, worth enrolling for that. It's a free service, and they give you warnings when what we call the KP index, which normally hovers around the 2 or 3 mark, when that starts to peak at 5 or 6, then it's worth looking for the Aurora. But we had a peak the other day and it didn't happen.
Aurora Watch.
Aurora Watch UK.
UK.
Aurora Watch UK.
Right. Okay.
Based in Lancashire, incidentally, which is just up the road from us, isn't it?
Right. There was a film in some dark skies recently, weren't there? I mean, we bang on about dark skies, and
Absolutely.
we make no apologies for banging on about
Absolutely.
stuff, because the stars are dark on the island.
They are. They're absolutely fantastic. And we were very fortunate. I was in contact with a filming company the other day, a few months ago, well, about a month ago now. They said they want to come to the Isle of Man in February to film the dark skies. And my heart dropped, thinking, oh, February, not good weather, we're going to be lucky. But they brought with them a gentleman called Nigel Henbest. Now, anyone who knows anything about astronomy, there's a very famous couple in astronomy, Heather Cooper and Nigel Henbest. They don't do as much as they used to do, but they're still quite prolific. They write the book I use for my notes all the time. Heather Cooper and Nigel Henbest wrote the 2018 Stargazing Guide. And I'm delighted to say, I'll let Andy read it out.
Yes, let me have a look here. It says, "To Howard, the sky's the limit, best wishes, Nigel." And it's available, there it is, 2018 Stargazing, and it's published by Phillips Maps as well. There we are. What does it say? "To Howard, the sky's the limit. Why do you never buy a drink, Nigel?"
Thank you very much.
Some things never change.
But Nigel Henbest, he's well known in the astronomy circles. He's a very renowned writer. He writes for New Scientist. They write the independent newspaper thing every month, indeed. But they came over, and he was the guy in front of the camera talking about the Isle of Man's dark skies. And they asked me to show them round and everything else. And the weather on Monday and Tuesday was stunning.
Oh, it was clear, wasn't it?
Absolutely brilliant. Monday night we went to the Sound and to Port Sodrick, where we looked at the sky. Then we went on Tuesday we went to Peel Castle, had a kipper bap, walked round the back of the castle, which is a dark sky site. We were lying on the grass on the 20th of February, sunbathing, while Nigel kept walking around the headland and they were filming him. Cut, do it again. Cut, do it again. It was great. Then we went up to Faulty Will, and Faulty Will is my favourite dark sky place. The Faulty Will Reservoir car park is stunning. And we were there, and we wanted to film in daylight and in the dark, so we stayed. And you know, when the stars came out, Orion and Sirius and all the winter stars I was talking about before, breathtaking skies.
Yeah.
They were so lucky, and I had an email from them a few days ago thanking me for all the efforts we made. It's going to be on YouTube, this film, but they're also writing a big article which is going to be in the Palace, the Best Western Hotels magazine. But it was great to see them, and Nigel was such a wonderful bloke, and it was great, him and me just chatting about astronomy in general. It's nice to be able to talk to someone about it.
Who would have thought, though, that Faulty Will car park would have been a tourist site? But of course it is.
It is, absolutely.
You've talked in the past about niche tourism, and at Faulty Will car park, in terms of astronomy,
Best in the island.
Well, I never knew that, Howard.
Absolutely. It is absolutely stunning because there is no light at all. There's a farm opposite, the opposite side of the reservoir car park, but it's owned by the government. It's never occupied. It's purely there as a building for storage or whatever. And I believe I haven't been up there, there was no lights on the other night, but it's just a stunning location. And of course, I saved the best to last, and not knowing it was going to be clear. Yeah. And they were blown away with it. And hopefully there'll be some good publicity come out of this. And the island again will be to the fore as one of the best places for dark skies astronomy in the British Isles.
Wow. Is it true he's going into space?
It is indeed. Well remembered, Andy. Yes, he's actually one of the Virgin Galactic astronauts. You become an astronaut when you're assigned to a mission, albeit in the future. Right. You're not an astronaut when you go into space. You get your astronaut's wings.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, officially, he is an astronaut. He is number 247, I think he was telling us, on the Virgin Galactic list.
Oh, it's a long queue.
Well, it is a big queue, but I spoke before about commercial spacecraft taking place. Virgin had a terrible accident in 2013 and the pilot was killed. Sadly, it would appear that was pilot error. He moved a control he shouldn't have done and disrupted the airflow. The spaceship crashed and he was killed, sadly. The co-pilot managed to bail out. That set them back quite a while. They're now flying the White Knight 2, the second vehicle, and when this one gets approved, which is probably this year, it's going to get approved for commercial flights, they will be flying 6 at a time, and they anticipate, once they've got it going, because obviously they want to get their money back, they're going to be flying 6 a week. So he reckons he's on the 41st flight of the Virgin Galactic. Nigel Hembest will be a fully fledged flown-in space astronaut.
Now, if you want to get in touch with Howard Parkin, he's with us on The Late Show once a month, but email?
Absolutely, give us a shout, howardparkin@manx.net.
Okay, and this time next month we'll be back eulogising about those dark skies.
Absolutely.
And we will never stop. Take
Correct.
it easy.
Absolutely, thank you very much.